Few characters in the Transformers franchise have come to claim the title of most hated. It's easy to quickly assume that someone like Megatron would get this title. He is, after all, the titular villain of the franchise. And yet, he doesn't really deserve this moniker, as he is a character worth loving, even if his actions are evil. Going beyond Megatron, we could look at characters like Revenge of the Fallen's The Fallen, but he is, as I've said many times on this channel, what I call a mustache-twirling villain. He's bad because he's bad, and there's not much more to him. If we are to reach into the comic universe of the franchise, we start to find more characters who are easily disliked for better reasons, such as the genocidal Zeta Prime from the IDW continuity. But today I want to focus on someone hated even more than Zeta. Someone who, on paper, commits far lesser crimes against society, and yet leaves readers with even more hatred in their hearts. That is Getaway. Getaway has a decent amount of character time in the franchise, but for this video I'll be focusing on issue number 47 of More Than Meets the Eye, titled The Lopsided Triangle. If you aren't familiar with this storyline, the war on Cybertron is long over, and Rodimus leads a spacecraft known as the Lost Light, with a crew of well-known and lesser-known characters in search of the legendary Knights of Cybertron. While the crew does feature a vast amount of characters, the main ones we need to keep in mind is Megatron. At this point in time, Megatron has renounced the Decepticon faction. He has joined the Autobots in an attempt to atone for his past actions. There's much more to the storyline, but again, for the sake of time, I'm simplifying it quite a bit. Getaway reveals in this issue that he is an MTO, or a made-to-order bot. This means that he was built and brought online solely for the purpose of war. He never had a life before the conflict on Cybertron, and his only purpose was to die on the battlefield. He gets his name from the fact that he was a coward and tried to escape his first battle. Getaway is a resentful person. He hates the fact that he is nothing more than a drone of war. But what he hates even more is the fact that someone like Megatron gets a second chance at life after all the atrocities he's committed. In Getaway's mind, Megatron is, and always will be, a monster, someone on the wrong side of history. And to many, Getaway's opinions on the matter are right, but the way he goes about acting on said opinions bring many beloved characters into the middle of the conflict. Tailgate, one of these beloved characters in the franchise, is manipulated by Getaway's talk of companionship and friendliness into becoming an instrument of destruction pointed directly at Megatron. At this point in the series, Tailgate has become a staple for being lighthearted and good-natured. In a series filled with monsters and sadists, Tailgate is the type of character you want to spend time with. And it's exactly the reason that Getaway chooses him to be his proxy. Because of Tailgate's nature, he is vulnerable to manipulation. In the IDW continuity, the writers introduced the Conjux Endura, basically a significant other or spouse for the Transformers. It's a bond two characters can share, but very few do, that signifies love and respect. The process of becoming one with another is known as the Conjux Ritus, a ritual wherein both parties perform 4 acts to prove their loyalty to each other. Getaway expertly tricks Tailgate into performing 3 of the 4 acts, with the final one being the assassination of Megatron. This plan, of course, was always meant to fail. When this plan ultimately fails, though, Getaway faces a form of justice that is particularly cruel to him. He has his arms and legs, as well as his mouth, taken off as he's put within the ship in lockdown. This makes sense as his power doesn't come from the weapons he carries or the tools he uses. They come from, well, his mouth. He is a manipulator. Getaway uses not only Tailgate, but everyone around himself to his own advantage. It's a cycle we see repeated throughout the comic run, as Getaway continues to escape justice and cause problems for the main crew of the Lost Light. Later in the comic, Getaway successfully stages a coup against Rodimus and takes over the Lost Light. In one of his most memorable moments, we hear exactly what drives him to commit such a heinous crime against his fellow Autobots. By what tortured logic did High Command conclude that letting an unrepentant mass murderer off the hook represent anything other than an insult to the memory of the billions he has killed? Seriously, can someone explain to me how the war can end with the instigator being allowed to go about his business as if nothing happened? The death camps? The massacres? the cities razed to the ground. Apparently, all of them were just missteps, painful but necessary, on Megatron's path to self-discovery. By helping that maniac find peace, you are excusing his past behavior. And so it falls to us, the 99%, to remind you how wrong this is. Forgiveness? Rehabilitation? Reintegration? No. Not him. Not now. Not ever. Getaway has a very good point here. His frustrations with Autobot High Command are shared by many. But in laying his cards on the table, we truly see who he is. Getaway is obsessed with being the hero. We see in the series earlier that he's constantly talking about actions that would make someone a prime, being more than just an MTO. He cannot stand the idea that someone like Megatron has the chance to be a hero, while he himself is just another soldier in the machine of war. Seldom do we see a character so pathetic, so sad, so unworthy of any attention as Getaway. In his final moments, he reveals that he has lost everything. All that matters to him now is Rodimus's defeat. Once again, Getaway cannot live with the fact that someone else is the hero. His self-absorbed ego and need for attention is ultimately his own undoing. Hey, thanks for watching. This video was definitely one that I thought a lot about making. I was thinking about doing kind of an expose on a character that is hated and that is universally disliked, and I thought, well, who can I pick? And the first character that came to mind was Getaway from IDW. I've said this in the past, specifically in my video about Hoist. I'm not yet at the point of wanting to do videos on the whole series of the IDW comics. There's just so much to cover. There's so many twists and turns. I have read through it once before. I don't think I'm really in the mood to reread through it again. There's just so much of it. But I do think that there's some opportunities to talk about some standout characters. Characters like Megatron and Optimus Prime, that's going to be a whole lot harder because there's so much of them. But characters like Getaway and Hoist, I think, are great. Hoist had much less spotlight time in the comics. Getaway had more, but again, here I don't really cover every single issue that Getaway has appeared in, but really more kind of the whole of his character and what ultimately led to his end. Which, when I did read that original comic when it came out, I did think that his end was extremely justified. I mean, seriously, you take one of the most beloved characters in the comic series, Tailgate, and you use him as your proxy. Man, oh man, what a way for the writers to get us to hate an Autobot. Never did you ever think that you could hate an Autobot more than any Decepticon in the entire universe. And yet, the writers did it. They totally did it, and they chose Getaway as their proxy, which I think is amazing. Writer Simon Furman once said that he thought it was funny to have Getaway be a character that never gets away with his actions. And in the comic series, we kind of see him constantly, yes, being punished for his crimes, but he kind of always sorts of gets away with it. He always comes back with another scheming, evil, wretched plan to just manipulate everybody around him. There was a great YouTube comment that I saw, and I'll try and put it up here on the screen, that basically summed up why I made this video. And that is that it's hard to hate a character like Megatron, because you may not know somebody who's a mass murderer or somebody who partook in genocide. It's a hard concept to bring out of the comics into your personal life. But Getaway is much easier to hate because we've all probably ran into a manipulator in our lives, and we know how destructive they can be. We know how evil they are. We know how as soon as we turn our backs on them, they're spreading something. They're saying something that's just awful. And I think that's why Getaway is just such an easy character to hate. You know, we look at Megatron or some other villains, and you're kind of like, Starscream, for example. Oh, I love to hate Starscream. He's such an evil villain. I love to hate him so much. And then you look at Getaway, and you realize, no, I just hate him. I just straight up, purely, absolutely hate this guy. I don't enjoy hating him. I just wish that he would be erased from the universe and just killed off. That's why I made this video, because of that comment. So thank you so much to whoever placed that comment. After reading that, I thought, you know what? Getaway is the guy that I need to talk about. But what do you think about Getaway? Do you think he's worth hating? Do you think he was justified in all of his actions? Obviously, he may have had the right idea about Megatron, maybe, but his actions definitely maybe weren't quite the right actions. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.